Today I'm at the world famous Etches Museum collection, named for Steve Etches, who spent a lifetime collecting specimens here on the Jurassic Coast, specifically at Kimmeridge Bay. All of the material in this museum, or practically all of it, has been found by Steve. I'm going to show you a couple of my favourite specimens in the museum. One, it's so hard to pass all this stuff of course, but one of them is this. This is a new species that was named in 2020. It is an Ichthyosaur, which of course are my favourite group of animals, but it is a really, really lovely specimen. The preservation, not just on this, on all this material, is really spectacular. But this, you can see it's got a huge orbit, a huge eye socket where the eyeball would be. In front of there you can see a little nostril. But the interesting thing, well, one of the interesting things about this one is that you have really, really tiny teeth, really, really super tiny teeth, which make this specimen particularly unusual. That's just one of the unusual characters, but there's some unusual features in the pectoral girdle as well, especially on the coracoid and the scapula. But it's a very nice specimen, one of my favourites. Let me have a think. There's so much good stuff, like this one here as well. This is a Plesiosaur, Kimmeridge, and you can see the great size of this. Now this one wasn't found locally, this wasn't found by Steve. It was found by a guy called Simon Carpenter, who is another good friend of mine and Steve's. And this is a spectacular specimen. You can see the beautiful detail in the limbs here. And you can see also the size of this thing. But one thing I always find amusing about plesiosaurs is the size of the jaws and the skull in comparison. They don't have the complete skull for this specimen, and they don't have that in the collections. But look at the lower jaw here, and then you compare that to the size of the bones. Let me have a look at this one. Again, I'm sticking to marine reptiles. I will also show something else, but look at this. I remember seeing this specimen probably how long ago? Over a decade ago, when Steve had it in his house. But this is a juvenile Ichthyosaur, possibly something like Brachypterygius. And also I should say, whilst thinking about that, all this material is Upper Jurassic, around about 160 million years old, or thereabouts. Now, not only is the preservation again spectacular for this Ichthyosaur, but look closely in here at the ribs. It is jam-packed full of stomach contents. Its last meals, I say plural because there's so much in there, so many fish bones, ribs, vertebrae, fish scales, jam-packed full of it. There's also a blob of something, which possibly is bone or something, I'm not sure what it is. But it's a truly spectacular fossil. You know, I wonder if this animal ate too much and then it died perhaps. You know, bit off more than it could chew maybe. And I don't want to, it's difficult for me to just pass all this stuff because it's so spectacular, but you need to come to this museum, come and support this museum. In my opinion, it's one of the best museums in the world. So I think, well, maybe I'll show this stuff here. So although it's very rare, Steve has, and other people have, found some dinosaur remains. The big bone here is a humerus, so it's the upper arm bone of a sauropod, so the long-necked, long-tailed dinosaurs found locally. This is a fibula, also from a sauropod. You have a piece here of a femur, so the upper leg bone. You also have down here, really nice, a claw of claw from a theropod dinosaur, a meat-eating dinosaur, large meat-eating dinosaur, again found locally here. And even this one, a very delicately preserved skull of a pterosaur that was recently, last couple of years, named as a new species as well, and lots of other pterosaur bits. This pterosaur was in fact named after Steve Etches. You know, a lot of the material in Steve's museum is new to science. If not a new species, it's a new specimen that is exceptionally preserved, and you know, there's so many opportunities for people to come here and study. Let's take a look at these. The preservation here is fantastic in some of this stuff. So you have, these are cuttlefish, which are preserved. Look at that, how many specimens he's found. This isn't all of them, there's also more in the collections. But what I want to point your attention to is the exceptional preservation of a dragonfly wing preserved there too. So you don't just get the enormous bones of plesiosaurs and dinosaurs, rarely of course dinosaurs, but other things like that. You get the delicately preserved stuff like a dragonfly wing. Now the last thing I will show you, I think he's around here, before saying hello to Steve over here. This is Steve's prep lab as well. Steve on the wall. Steve chatting away here as well. Hey Steve.
That's what happens.
And let me show you this.
But that's the start, so what you have to do then
is perhaps one, well, it's definitely one of my favourite fossils in the museum, but perhaps, and I'm going to go out there and say this, perhaps in the world. Now, growing up on the Yorkshire coast, I used to visit the Yorkshire coast a lot and collect lots of ammonite fossils, and ammonites formed a large part of my collection growing up. Well, you never really think about what did they do in terms of, did they lay eggs, did they give birth to live young and all that stuff? Well, Steve was the first person to actually discover ammonite eggs anywhere in the world. A spectacular find. And you can see there's 3 examples here of tiny clusters of eggs. Now the one thing, this has actually been scientifically studied as well and published, as Steve is an author on the paper, and it's a really spectacular thing. Now, in these clusters of eggs, the one sort of criticism is that they've not found the eggs preserved directly with an embryo inside, but new finds have been made, and potentially, again, we have to have them scanned and so on, and hopefully they'll find an embryo or something preserved inside, but they have found them directly associated with some shells of ammonites. So that is my personal favourite in this collection, I would probably say, which is say something considering that, you know, most of you will know that my expertise is ichthyosaurs, you know, I love dinosaurs and all that jazz, but this in particular is a really spectacular fossil.